whatever it tells me. Oh, I forgot to do
Now
the
the
reveal.
broadcast is live. Oh no!
There's. Hey.
I gotta put my shirt on.
I've got my. Yeah, man. I get that feeling too. I've got my locked and loaded shirt on. Oh, how things used to be so exciting about the Denver Broncos. I got some news for you, Bloom. I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
But yeah, things they are a changing. That's for sure. In the National Football League, it's part 2 of the Week 4 preview here on the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom. And before we jump in, Bloom, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, that's something we avoided talking about yesterday because we have more clarity about it today.
Yeah, there's no game this week. 2 more positive tests in the Titans organization. I think the other thing we have to watch is, again, Texans, Vikings. No positive tests yet from the Vikings. Very good. However, let's see. Incubation period. This is complicated. But we are going to see the Titans-Steelers game in Week 7 or Week 8. Something you might want to think about if your league doesn't have first-come, first-serve waivers. Like we advised you, set your lineups without your Titans and Steelers. Look at that lineup when you made your waiver claims this week. If it's first come, first serve waivers after your waivers have run, I think it has in most leagues, then you can do something to cover any problems. However, if you don't, it might be time to revisit that. I guess that's something else that would have been something to foresee in the COVID rules. A couple other things, Cease, I just want to do a service for our listeners. It's more important than ever this week for our loyal listeners. Since we recorded, and we don't usually do this, East, but a lot of things happened yesterday since we recorded.
Yeah.
For games that we talked about yesterday. Kareem Hunt didn't practice. Monitor that. Leonard Fournette didn't practice. Scott Miller didn't practice. Monitor that. Justin Watson returned to practice. Chris Carson actually practiced. And he had the same status as Carlos Hyde. And then going into the game tonight, I'm sure as you know well, Cease, Philip Lindsay sounds like he's not going to play. Close. And it sounds like Jamison Crowder's going to play. I could see nothing that could go wrong with that, Cecil.
Nothing at all whatsoever. But remember, things, they are a changing. So everyone stay safe and healthy out there. What did I hear? Darren Waller did some charity event and nobody was wearing a mask, right? Is that
Raiders. Yep.
We got it back. Let's make sure we keep it, everybody. So there you go. Let's get into the games that are going to happen then, and we'll have 7 of them in this show, including Arizona and Carolina. Hey, hopefully you had some of those guys, right? Hopefully you started your season. You're like, I'm going to get Nuke Hopkins. I'm going to get Andy Isabella. That was a hot waiver wire pickup for everyone out there. And fantasy GMs are curious about Kenyon Drake, Bloom. So let's break this down for this week. And Arizona against Carolina should be a bonanza for the Cardinals side.
Yeah, it should be. And I think give credit here to J.J. Zacharyson, and late-round quarterback, fellow Yinzer. We've seen, after week 1, Cease, we're carrying Josh Jacobs on our shoulders. Yay, he led us to the victory after he played Carolina, Week 2, Leonard Fournette. Yay. Hope he didn't hurt his ankle while we were carrying him. Week 3, Austin Eckler. Yay. All of these running backs get right against Carolina. So look for this as a get-right game for Kenyon Drake. Look at this as a what-the-heck flex game for one Chase Edmonds. Kyler Murray, of course he's going to be in your lineup. We're watching to see if he can limit those interceptions. There's still flaws in his game. Maybe not flaws in his fantasy game because he's getting those rushing touchdowns and just gobbling up yards when he's getting out of the pocket like Pac-Man. Looks like Christian Kirk is limited with the groin. We'll see if he's going to play. I'm still watching this Kirk Isabella thing. Obviously, it's best for the offense if they're both out there, but that doesn't give us anyone to turn to for fantasy. And for Arizona in general, Cease watching this game, you got to make the layups if you're going to go to the playoffs this year. For the Chargers, we're looking at them as a playoff team after they took the Chiefs to overtime. They didn't make the layup. So Arizona traveling here. It's a different mentality, Cease. The time that they got Cliff Kingsbury, they were at the bottom of the league. Now, partway into year 2, they have to think of themselves as a team that takes care of business in a matchup like this.
Yeah, and that's the maturation of a team that we see across the NFL. So Arizona, you're up next. Carolina, you'll get there eventually. I just don't know who's going to be there when you do get there, mainly meaning Teddy. Okay, Teddy, how do you perform this week? Obviously, no Christian McCaffrey, so here comes more of Mike Davis. Fantasy GMs are like, oh, I want some more Curtis Samuel in there as well. We'll see if that is a possibility. Bloom. And then, of course, to those wide receivers, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, what's your thoughts on their performances this week?
We're seeing Bridgewater's game, speaking of maturing, his game is right there in that safe zone. He's throwing the ball downfield a little bit better. He's meshing with his targets. And he played a nice, clean game last week to help them win. It may take more than that. This week he may see Chandler Jones in his grill. We're going to see about Russell Okung, whether he's going to be out there or not. So that's something to watch here with Teddy. A lot of short passes to Mike Davis again. I mean, how can you go against this at this point with Davis coming off of back-to-back 8 reception games? He's a strong running back too. And by the way, Cease, in these coronavirus times, this is a good strategy point, right? When Mike Davis was available on the waiver wire, you might not have needed him. I've got Derrick Henry. I've got James Conner. Now, if you were just thorough, circumspect, price enforcing, we talk about price enforcing in auctions a lot. Price enforcing on the waiver wire. Hey, Mike Davis is going to start 5 games, 4 games. He's going to be a flex or running back 2 for PPR. That's worth 20% of your cap, your free agent bucks. Even if you didn't need him at the time, if you put that out there and people were asleep at the wheel and you got him, now he could be a very important player or a very important player to trade. Now the trade market heats up for running backs that can get you some points this week. You would expect Carolina to be playing from behind in this one. Or at the very least for it to be a game that they have to open up the offense a little bit more than they did last week. So you like DJ Moore, you like Robbie Anderson a little bit more. Cease, it looks like Robbie Anderson's going to be your consistent guy in this offense, and Moore's going to be up and down. And Curtis Samuel, I don't think they're finding a way to turn his raw abilities into fantasy production yet. Other thing I'm watching here, Cease, Isaiah Simmons. Injuries to both safeties in Arizona. We're going to see some Isaiah Simmons in this game. And will it be one of those games that you wonder why weren't we seeing more of him? Or
because of Vance Joseph?
Go on.
Yeah, I could go on. Who's a gangster? I'll do if you know the reference, Bloom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that story, but that a very awkward story.
Okay.
For sure. With
Another
Vance
one for
Joseph.
off the air.
Yeah. Well, I could tell it on the air. Johnny Bolin caught Vance Joseph out. I think they were going to like Diamond Cabaret, a strip club. And so he was like live streaming him and Vance Joseph. He like got in his car because Vance Joseph was leaving a steakhouse. His first unboxing match. Because that's totally why you go to Diamond Cabaret. But he like jumped in his Uber or jumped in his car with him like uninvited. And this is Johnny Bolin, right? So he's pretty out there, and so he's like live streaming. He's like, "Who's a gangster?" And Vance Joseph was so uncomfortable. He's like, "You are." He's like, "Come on, man, Mike Tomlin and all them know." Like, yeah, it's look it up if you ever need to laugh. But "who's a gangster" is a phrase frequently said in this household, and certainly on my show.
Cecil, you're a gangster of love.
Who is a gangster when it comes to Minnesota and Houston and against the Texans? Okay, Texans, you're going to get Minnesota this time around. And Minnesota, you uncorked Justin Jefferson. How do you feel about him doing it again? Fantasy gems falling all over themselves to get Justin Jefferson in the lineup. Is he more of a flex play in reality in this matchup, or do you like him more, Bloom? Not rinse and repeat. We're not talking 170 yards, but still 100 yards, maybe a touchdown. What can the kid do? Did they uncork something there? What happens with Adam Thielen because of that? Dalvin Cook should lead the way for this Gary Kubiak offense, but that's where I emphasize, Bloom. It's a Gary Kubiak offense. Don't expect them to go nuts unless they have to.
Cease, I got to give a shout out to Eli Savoy. I do radio with him in Memphis for a long time now. Got a lot of questions about Justin Jefferson, and a lot of these questions I was saying, yeah, Jefferson is an ad. Jefferson is somebody who can contribute, and he said it sounds like Jefferson is moving on up. So
very good.
Loved it. It was, I mean, top 5 all-time TV theme.
Yeah, well, and I know you don't like Prince B because of his beef with KRS-One. Actually, it was KRS-One's beef with him. But
PM Dawn.
PM Dawn did a Jefferson remix. They did
Ooh.
that song. Gotta be moving on up.
Fish don't fry in the chicken in the
Yeah.
kitchen. Let me see. I'm gonna send it up right now.
Beans don't burn on the grill.
Beans don't burn on the grill. Yeah. So this is a game that is an elimination game, basically, right? 0-3 teams. The Chargers have made the Super Bowl. I mean, the playoffs as an 0-4 team, and that's it. So you got to win this game. I don't think either of these teams planned on being 0-4 going into this game. Minnesota, you would hope that they're going to pass more with Jefferson. They need that number 2 target. They have that number 2 target now. Again, a reminder that when you hear a little buzz about a player getting more involved going into the week, we did hear that about Jefferson. Maybe you can get ahead of that curve. Hopefully that helps Thielen via volume. And the other thing we're watching here, of course, is Gary Kubiak. Does he go into the game knowing that with this defense, he has to alter his game plan to run more plays, to put more points up on the board? Or do they still try to stick with the run? Of course, Dalvin Cook reminding us what he's capable of. Houston's run defense is not very good. So you like this. We'll see if there's Nerve Smith sighting. Probably just come back to him in another year, probably. Another thing to watch, again, I've got to mention this because of COVID and the incubation period. We're not totally out of the woods with this game as it is Thursday morning because of the incubation period. Let's watch the Friday tests. Let's watch the Saturday tests. It's always possible that this could touch the Vikings and then we reset expectations for this game. And, these are some of those scenarios that they envisioned. And I don't think that the Vikings envisioned this start to the season when they gave Mike Zimmer that extension.
Yes, that's not the droids you were looking for. And Bill O'Brien's like, droids? What? What are we talking about? I don't watch movies. Bill O'Brien doesn't do much, include coach a team well. So with that being said, this one is at home for the Texans. So a lot of people still get Will Fuller questions, Bloom. And Will Fuller's so blankety blank frustrating. Sorry, Joe. That a lot of the times I'm leaning away from Will Fuller because I've often said, like, I'm starting him if he's playing. And then this year he'll play and then he'll go out there, tweak his hamstring and not get a catch. But then he'll play the next week. So it's like the Will Fuller thing is now in season instead of just like, oh, he shut down for the year now. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
So that's the frustration. Randall Cobb seems to be doing a little bit more. Okay, we like that. David Johnson there. You like that? How do you like the Texans this week?
Cease, I got to mention, because it came up on the couch randomly. It wasn't Chevy Chase. He wasn't in Steely Dan. I know you're not a Steely Dan guy. I have a soft spot for Steely Dan. He wasn't in Steely Dan, but he was in a band with Donald Fagen and Walter Becker, the founding members of Steely Dan. I think it was called Leather Canary or something like that. And he called it a bad jazz band. Chevy Chase. He could have been, so here we are. The Texans, our favorite bad jazz band. Yeah. So it's now, though, they get to play, I guess, easier music against the Vikings. Do we see this Texans offense look like an offense that we are happy to be invested in fantasy football? Do we see Deshaun Watson look like the quarterback that we've loved watching so far in his career? Again, because of the opponent, because the schedule makers were not that kind to the Texans with that Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh opening to the season. Kansas City defense may be legit here. So it's a great matchup for Watson. I think that this is where maybe he starts to pay off on the draft capital that you spent on him. We're going to watch David Johnson. He's been running a lot of routes, He's run like 90 routes. Why is he only getting like 2 catches a game? How do you make life easier for Deshaun Watson, right?
Right.
But with expectations of Texans' success on offense, expectations of a good game for David Johnson, and I think, again, with Derrick Henry and James Conner taken out of the mix and the injuries around the league, you're probably playing David Johnson in some fashion if you have him. Anyway, Fuller, none other cease than the sage Gene Bramall. on the show Sunday morning last week. I said, "Are you playing Will Fuller?" He said, "This is what you signed up for if you drafted him. He's on the field. You're going to play him. And in this matchup, you're going to play him." Brandon Cook's a little bit dicier, but the theoretical upside is there with Watson, the ability to throw deep, Cook's ability to get deep, and then there's Randall Cobb, delayed impacts. He's first week barely even involved till the end of the game. Second week sprinkled in. Last week you saw him getting open against the Steelers. You think that's going to happen this week. So Cobb is a what the heck flex, and we'll see how long he stays at that status and maybe becomes somebody that you put in your lineup every week. Of course, there's still the tight ends that could complicate this. There's still Kenny Stills that could complicate this. We'll see if Duke Johnson is back. So, there's enough weapons there. But again, I look at this one as an elimination game, and Texans fans are conflicted because do you want the team to crater this year? So maybe you can hit the reset button while you have that Deshaun Watson extension, or do you want to see them start to climb out of the doldrums against the Vikings?
In football and in life, don't waste time with something that's not working.
Yeah.
In football and in life, it's just take it from two old guys. Yeah, if it's not working, don't just sit around and wait for it to change, because it ain't going to change with Bill O'Brien. This is who he is, Texans fans. I'm sorry. I'll never get invited back to do Texans radio. Anyway, Giants and Rams, they are up next. Although I did have fun with Cecil Shorts, Bloom. I did morning drive time on Texans radio with Cecil Shorts. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, nobody cares about that. They care about the Giants and the Rams, or maybe they don't, because I'm thinking of the Giants and what were the reports yesterday? They're going to use Devonta Freeman some more. Fine. I'm still not starting any Giants player, Bloom, and against the Rams this week. I'm just not as interested. Let's talk about the Giants because we have to.
Oh, Danny boy. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. Oh, poor Daniel Jones. I just feel bad for him, Cease. Jones and Burrow, you can both see that they have the constitution to stand in there against anything, right? I mean, Daniel Jones and Joe Burrow are the people that if you have the impossible mission, you have to get behind enemy lines and steal that thing and come back, and we're all counting on you. They would try. The 0.0001%. That's the kind of odds that Daniel Jones is facing against Aaron Donald and company. This offense is not a good offense. Freeman is a desperation play, yes. It's funny. We're going to have to add another segment to part 2 of the preview. There's the what the heck flex, and there's the oh crap COVID play. That's Devontae Freeman this week. It's I guess I guess I have to pick up somebody that's going to get 5 or 10 carries. Last week, 5 carries for 10 yards. I would say if you have to play a Giant, Golden Tate would be your top pick, because I would expect Jalen Ramsey to be on Darius Slayton. And then we'll see about Evan Ingram. I mean, I understand saying Evan Ingram's on my bench, or maybe even talk about this with Adam Harstad this morning on Twitter. Sometimes you cut someone from your fantasy team to send a message to everyone else, Maybe Evan Ingram's that guy. It's a rash. Maybe you're going to regret it, but it just sends a shockwave through the team. If Evan Ingram's not, he was the 6th round pick of that team, of our team. Whoa. So Evan Ingram, I think you're benching him if you have an option that's been consistently outscoring him. I don't think it's necessarily crazy to drop him, although you hope that, remember, after this week, the Giants get to the NFC least part of their schedule. So when you get those defenses, because Washington's defense is in trouble now, Dallas's defense, we already know, Philly's defense has been problematic. Maybe some of these Giants bounce back. So don't be too hasty dropping a Tate or an Ingram. You're not going to drop Slayton. And then, we'll watch this Rams defense. They were worked last week for a half. They didn't look like a good defense at all. Is that the Bills? Is that there are some cracks? I don't think this Giants team, Jason Garrett, Joe Judge, are going to be able to find those cracks, but maybe there's something there they can use on tape.
Hey, we just talked about Jason Garrett and wasting time.
Yeah.
So there you go. Windows, right? Windows in life, windows in football. Boy, Bloom, I'm thinking big picture today.
Always, every day.
Yeah, Rams side of things. Well, Darrell Henderson, in that same vein, they're like, can you do what you did earlier, please? Where fantasy GMs okay, like Justin Jefferson, just do it again. Darrell Henderson's got that talent. Cam Akers got those ribs and didn't practice on Wednesday. We're recording Thursday morning. Doesn't look like he'll give it a go. Is Malcolm Brown worth as a what-the-heck flex, or is Henderson going to get the whole thing? It's Sean McVay, who praised Kyle Shanahan for running back by committee, and will try to do the same thing. So that's a little shaky there. A little less shaky what Jared Goff does in that passing game, and they should be able to have their way, Bloom, no matter what, no matter who they're going to, because it's the Giants.
Right. Jabril Peppers is banged up here. Julian Love is banged up in that Giant secondary. It was already a problem to begin with. It's a run-heavy Rams team. Let's make sure that people still see this, because last week, even while they were down big, they were still running Darrell Henderson, and he was still looking good. Darrell Henderson was not handled as a running back by committee type back last week. He was a lead back with Malcolm Brown sprinkled in. I think the split was like 20 carries for Henderson and 7 for Akers for Brown. If Akers is out, you're treating Henderson as a must play, and Brown is one of those what the heck COVID plays, but not necessarily. I mean, what you hope for Brown is that the Rams can pull away, and maybe it's Brown getting the carries to put the game away, or maybe Xavier Jones instead of Darrell Henderson. And because this is the Giants, you're playing Robert Woods, you're playing Cooper Kupp, but again, remember, this is a run-heavy offense now. And last week, because of the game script, Woods and Kupp worked out for you. This week, if it's lower volume, and that's why you're looking at Jared Goff as a high-efficiency, high-floor, low-ceiling streamer. So, I play Ryan Fitzpatrick over, for instance, just because of the ceiling there for Fitzpatrick that is not there for Goff. Goff's still a very solid play. And I also would say Tyler Higbee, unless you have an obvious better play, and there aren't many, right? I mean, there's Kelsey. Kittle should be back this week. There's Zach Ertz. And, maybe looking at Darren Waller or someone like that. Noah Fant with Brett Rippon. So Higbee had that 3-touchdown game 2 weeks ago. Last week he faced those tough Bills linebackers. He could get back in the end zone this week. I do think the Rams will be visiting the end zone a lot in this one.
Yes, early and often, and they will keep going for it. Now, this one, a popcorn moment in that afternoon slate. It's pretty thin. Rams-Giants will be a joke. This next one will be the one we're all watching.
Yeah.
It's New England and Kansas City, and the New England side of things, Kansas City side is going to be really fascinating because Belichick's going to take away what you like to do. He can take away one of those things. But I want to talk about the Chiefs, Boom, but let's talk about the Patriots first. The return of James White. And man, we're all there with you, James. How's that affect this offense? Do they try to run the ball more and use the old keep Pat Mahomes on the sidelines type of thing? Do they dare try to go toe-to-toe, which they cannot do because they do not have the assets to do that? What's the strategy here? What's the fantasy strategy when considering Patriots this week?
Maybe they could go toe-to-toe. Cam Newton went toe-to-toe with Russell Wilson. He got that pick 6 to start the game. Some history here, right? Mahomes versus Belichick. Belichick won both matchups into 2018. Mahomes still had 4 touchdowns, a couple interceptions. 43-40 was the score of the first one. I don't remember the score of the playoff game. It was an overtime game. And Chris Jones going out hurt the Chiefs. In those games, Cease, I think you could see this Patriots defense holding on for dear life, like most defenses against Mahomes. Last year, a little more modest game, 23-16 win, and Mahomes contained more. And again, we can see the Chargers defense pretty consistently containing Mahomes, even if by the end of the game the stats are there for Mahomes. So there's some stuff there for Belichick to work with to try to come up with some strategies to slow Mahomes down. But I think the best strategy is Cam Newton and long drives and grinding out those drives with a 4-headed backfield. We should have White back this week. Damien Harris was activated. And I think that you're looking at this 4-headed backfield. It's Belichick backfield. Cam Newton's going to vulture all the touchdowns. And those are valid points. But again, last week we saw well over 200 yards rushing. We saw 3 total touchdowns. We saw 3 players have, J.J. Taylor got 11 carries. So again, this week is showing us, hey, if you can have a running back who will get 11 carries in a game, you might need that running back and just hope for the best. So I think that you were still monitoring this to see who's playing well and to see how they're being used. This week I would say James White is your best PPR play and Burkhead is your what the heck COVID play. Michelle probably on that level too. And we'll see about Damien Harris. Damien Harris could play well enough after all the buzz about him this preseason to show himself out as the head of the pack here. Also watching that Rex Burkhead, Newton chemistry. And then I think you got to play Julian Edelman. I mean, if this is a game that they have to open up the offense, that's Julian Edelman's music. N'Keal Harry will get the targets. We'll see if he looks a little more athletic. Demir Bird could always get that big play. But Kansas City's defense, that's the other question in the background here, Cease. We've been watching Kansas City's defense. Got to mention the name Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah.
Because Andy Reid, in his infinite wisdom, remember, it was the offense dragging the defense across the finish line.
Yes.
And whenever they hired Spagnuolo, you have a change of scheme. You know, they make a massive trade for Frank Clark. A lot of people thought they overpaid at the time. They're drafting different kinds of players to fit in this defense. Name one player from their secondary. The Jarius Sneed, right? He's hurt.
And he's banged up.
So they're still doing it though. They're still they made Lamar Jackson look bad. You got to give some of the credit. No, it wasn't just drops. It wasn't just Lamar being tight. You got to give some credit. They made Deshaun Watson look bad in week 1. Got to give this defense some credit. We'll see what they do against Cam.
If you don't want Kansas City to go undefeated, this is one of those games where you could be like, this could be the team.
Yeah.
This could be the team. By the way, Bloom, quickly, as we're got COVID on the brain because of the Titans and the Steelers. In the second draft, which is still going on, by the way, you don't not pick because you mentioned like, oh, I don't need that help this week.
No.
Your draft pick doesn't come up and you don't go, nah, I'm good. You pass. Yeah. No, I think you should be adding waiver wire people every week.
Yeah.
You should be adding players every week, even if you're strong, even if you're COVID free or whatever, like your team's fine, you're rocking and rolling. Nope. Nope. Keep adding those players. Keep throwing to McCole Hardman. What a segue. Yeah. How about you do that? Because Belichick's going to take. What's Belichick going to take away?
Hill.
What's most likely he's going to take away?
Hill.
He's going to take Tyreek Hill away. Okay, so that means Kelsey. All right, cool. That means McCole Hardman. So McCole Hardman is a regular flex play for me this week, Bloom. Not even a what the heck flex, although I'll talk about him again in what the heck flex, just because it's so much fun. If there is a weak spot of this Chiefs offense, and it's hard to find. It's probably they don't have a pile pusher. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Darwin, I don't care who it is out there. You know, it's 3rd and 1. Those guys aren't pushing the pile. But, you know, you're going to keep the Chiefs in that type of situation? Probably not. So let's talk about Kansas City. What happens when Belichick takes something away? That something's probably Hill. How does the team respond?
Yeah, you're still going to play Hill, by the way. But you have to think maybe someone, safety help over the top, jamming him, getting him disrupted from his routes. Not that that's a reason to go back to Sammy Watkins. Watkins is a modest play here. I think Watkins is a low ceiling play against the New England corners. Kelsey's going to get his. Hardman had a 48-yard touchdown in the matchup last year, which was a low-scoring game for the Chiefs. So I could see going back to Hardman. And Hardman's going to be one of those guys he's every week, routes run or snaps. He doesn't need that many. He can still be. He should have had 2 touchdowns last week. So Hardman becomes interesting, staying on our what the heck flex list. Really, with Hardman, it's just a question of he's a what the heck flex every week, and will he move up to being an every week play at some point this season? I think this is a Clyde Edwards-Helaire week. I think this is a massive Clyde Edwards-Helaire week, and it's not necessarily Mahomes week. So if you're looking at your DFS lineups for the late game slate, probably not a Mahomes week if you're giving the respect to New England. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So what are we going to see here, Cease, right? Let's get in the head of Bill Belichick.
Okay.
Number one, you're going to induce Kansas City to run, right? So when Mahomes goes up to the line, I think you're going to show him light boxes so that he's going to pick those run choices whenever he can, or Reed's going to see that. And you really, it's almost the opposite of, this is how you have to be about Mahomes, right? Because usually you want to put the offense on schedule and 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Then your playbook opens up. Then you can do a lot more. And that's advantageous for the offense. I think with Mahomes, you just want to get him to 3rd down. You just want to get to 3rd down and then hope someone makes a play or pull some things out, show some deception. But the other thing is, it's Belichick, Cease. And what's a Belichick pattern. He's not going to show you everything in the regular season. Whatever
Right.
he understands of how to slow down Mahomes, he's not going to throw everything but the kitchen sink.
Or they're going to
out.
see him again.
Right.
So why would he do that?
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see how they defend them. I think this could be a really big Clyde Edwards-Helaire game in the passing game and the running game. I think that if you're Bill Belichick, if the ball's in Edwards-Helaire's hands, then that's manageable for you. It's not manageable when it's Hardman or Hill or Kelsey streaking down the field or Kelsey running guys over. What a matchup. I mean, this is just fantastic. You have the best quarterback in the game right now. Well, I mean, there's Russell Wilson too. That's the point, right? You have, whether it's Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes, you have one of the best defensive minds in the league, in the history of the game, going up against a quarterback that's one of the best ever at the top of their game.
Right.
And you also have Cam Newton say, "What about me? I'm pretty interesting too." This is exciting.
Yeah, the chip on Cam Newton's shoulder, it's like so beautiful. I just hate that it's with the
That's why we were rooting for it.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of commentary we could get into about that. So let's shelf that for now and go to Buffalo and Las Vegas. And this is the Bills, and this is Josh Allen climbing that list. Josh Allen becoming better, throwing with touch. Josh Allen, and I think a large portion of it, Bloom, is one, the consistency, right? You don't have a kid that's changing offensive coordinators every year. Drew Lock, what?
Yeah.
And you also have Stephon Diggs. I don't think Diggs is getting enough credit for what he's doing for Josh Allen because he's bailing him out sometimes still. Allen's still get a little wild sometimes and certainly has the temper. Like a quarterback with a temper isn't necessarily the greatest thing, Bloom. Like get you in trouble, get some personal foul penalties. Like you got a quarterback that's kind of feeling his oats a little bit, right? That's old country saying. You're feeling your oats. You're feeling pretty good. And that's what Josh Allen's doing right now. Fantasy GMs aren't feeling good because Zach Moss is going to be back this week. And it was basically 60-40, 55-45, whatever you want to be more specific, when Singletary and Moss were out there together. Last week, it was all Singletary. So this week, it looks like it's going to be Singletary and Moss again. Let's break this down.
Yeah, I think that Singletary is more of a flex, Moss more of a what the heck flex while we see how this works out. However, we do expect this to be tired Raiders defense. As we mentioned, the Patriots just ran over them last week. So maybe that pushes Singletary. And a week like this, I guess he's a running back too, with Connor and Henry out of the mix. Moss maybe moves up to just some flex material. Want to see how he looks coming off of the toe injury. Running backs, toes, those are your launching pads. But the real headline here still is Josh Allen. What a world, what a reality that we live in, Cecil, of all the multiverses. The one where Josh Allen, at least for 3 games, has become as good as any quarterback in the league, even with those Josh Allen mistakes during the game. And another thing I think that people have to understand, I think even some of the Josh Allen critics agree to this. He's fun to watch. He's always been fun to watch.
Yep.
He's always been an unbelievably entertaining quarterback because he plays right at the limit of his ability. The name Brett Favre has come up a lot, Cease.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're not saying he's going to be as good as Brett Favre, win as many games. Maybe he'll throw as many interceptions. But the point is that it's really, as it is, football is a game where human beings are pushing their abilities to the very limit and living out at the limits of what they're capable of. You can see it in the way the players after they retire look like one of those sumo costumes got deflated. You're like, that's Marshall Yonda? What? That can't be him. That's Joe Thomas. What do you mean? There's no way that's Joe Thomas. So Josh Allen takes that one step further because he's taking the hardest job in all of sports, being an NFL quarterback, and playing that at the limits. And it creates breathtaking plays in both directions. I want to say right now, I feel for Bills fans. This is the first year since the great teams, the Jim Kelly teams, that I think they can entertain. Hey, in any game against anybody, the program, and now COVID rears its head. I mean, it just feels like for Bills fans, of all the things, you finally have something to feel good about, really feel good about. Let's just hope that this season keeps on track. Stephon Diggs should have a big bounce back week here. Cole Beasley looks like John Brown's not going to play. Cole Beasley is looking really good here against the Raiders. Even Gabriel Davis, the rookie, had a nice game last week. Had already been involved right away. You have to like him against the Raiders, and maybe even Dawson Knox, because 3 touchdowns last week. And some of that maybe was John Brown getting hurt, but hey, Davis got his, Beasley got his, Diggs got his last week while the tight end scored 3 touchdowns. So maybe this is a Dawson Knox week. It's going to be a week of a lot of success for the Bills going to Vegas.
Isn't it so much fun talking about the Bills now?
Yeah.
We've been talking about them for years and years, and most of the time it's agony. Or when Marshawn Lynch played for him, that was fun. But now it is fun, and you got guys like Gabriel Davis come up. So and Dawson Knox, the talent's always been there. Raiders' talent is really banged up. Okay, so Josh Jacobs, who himself is banged up, but you have Henry Ruggs, who's not going to play. I don't think it's official yet, Bloom. So don't hold me to it. Bryan Edwards is not going to play. So okay, Hunter Renfrow, your slot guy, now is going to be outside. Nelson Aguilar, you're really going to rely. Darren Waller, make sure you don't get fined for not wearing a mask at your charity event. Okay, who are they going to go to, and who can you trust outside of a banged up Josh Jacobs?
And Jacobs, every week Cecil were on the breakdown watch. I mean, I drive a 2004 Honda Pilot. I only try to drive it around New Orleans, because if I tried to take it outside of New Orleans at this point, it's got like 150,000 miles on it. I'd be like,
that thing could go 250, dude.
I know.
It's a Honda. That thing will run forever.
True.
As a car guy, here's my thing. Like, I've had every single car, and I love BMW, but I will say this, like, dude, that Honda, 250 easy.
It's true.
Easy.
You're ruining my analogy. See, this is why I shouldn't try to use car stuff to make analogies. Right?
I drive that really reliable car, but I don't try to drive it very far.
Right. Maybe I should say it's like the pair of socks that I wear with a hole in it, and like, is my toe just going to bust through, and I'm not going to be able to wear those socks anymore. Look, the point is with Josh Jacobs, I feel like the anxiety every week of, is this going to be the week that he breaks down? But you're still going to play him. Renfrow, the answer is Hunter Renfrow, by the way, to your question. We've seen Buffalo give up a big game to Jamison Crowder. We saw last week Cooper Kupp. I think that this is a team that is vulnerable to slot receivers, or at the very least, that is the optimal choice anyway, especially, it's interesting, Cece, you get into some defensive football theory where, how do you handle this whenever Nelson Aguilar and Zay Jones are the outside receivers, and you're almost wasting 2 personnel members of your defense by just having them cover them. I say that and watch them have one of them have a big game, but it's going to be funneled in this one to Renfrow and Waller, of course. Poor Raiders, opening up the Roomba, had
just
that
get
big
something
win
going, and
and then that's what happens when the schedule makers put a trip to Foxborough on your schedule. It ruins the momentum that you have. We'll see if they can build some momentum again in the return to the Roomba.
You have Kiki socks?
Yeah, I've worn them a few times on the show. Kiki Cutie socks, but he's barely even on a roster at this point. So I need a reason. I need a reason to bring them back out. Cake Cuttings for me. They have hearts on them too.
Starring in the CFL, you can wear your Kiki socks.
I'll take that. XFL, I'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take it, man. We'll take that. All right, I just went P. Diddy. It's time to almost wrap up the show. Philadelphia and San Francisco. I got a couple games left. Philadelphia side of things. Are we on the Carson Wentz watch? Are we on the Jalen Hurts watch? I talked to my buddy Keith, who's a big Eagles fan. He's from back in Philadelphia, and he was like, I mean, it's Eagles quarterback, right? You're gonna hate him when you're there, and then when they're done playing, you'll love them, because they love Jaws and they love McNabb now. But when they're playing, they hated him. So Carson Wentz, you're feeling that hate, and you're feeling the hate because, one, you don't have an offensive line. What's it been? 12 different combinations. I think I have that right. 12 different combinations on the offensive line. So, okay, plenty of Miles Sanders. You got nobody to throw to. Either everybody's banged up or they're coming back from being banged up. I don't think Alshon Jeffrey's going to play this week. If you know anything different there, Bloom, let me know. So, Zach Ertz, Miles Sanders, yes. Everyone else, oh, my God.
Yeah. It may be Greg Ward. And that's what I'm looking at here is Ertz and Sanders are the hope here. And the offensive line continues to be a problem. Poor Jason Peters. Jason Peters, it's just conditioning. It's just, he came back. Jason Peters in like May. I don't know. When did Brandon Brooks go down? It was a little bit after that. The point is, Jason Peters wasn't even planning on playing football this year.
Yeah.
Then he comes back to play guard. Okay. Hey, you asked me to play guard with Lane Johnson on one side and Jason Kelsey on the other. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now I'm playing left tackle. You can just see it's going to be a problem, Against San Francisco, even though probably you won't have D Ford, Nick Bosa out, still you've got Eric Armstead. Kerry Hyder's an interesting guy there. Deion Jordan made a play last week. I mean, it's still a problem. Greg Ward could be an interesting PPR play here. But really the headline was what you led with, Cease, is the Carson Wentz watch on. I mean, you can just see it's his confidence. And we talk about this all the time on the show. Confidence is so important. And you can't necessarily blame him. This is what we're watching with Sam Darnold. I mentioned David Carr. What kind of career could David Carr have had on a different team with a different trajectory? And I suppose there's an excellent large topic, Cease, like you said, big picture. Always think big picture of just how much the organization and situation of players drafted into changes their destiny. And I think with Wentz, even though he's part of a Super Bowl winning team, even though for a while it looked like this is brilliant, now you're seeing it start to break down. And I think with Carson Wentz, the way that Carson Wentz plays and the way that Josh Allen plays aren't that different. They're in the same archetype of quarterback, right? Big guys, very athletic, arm. They're in that. Cam Newton is another guy who comes to mind when I think of the way Cam Newton. By the way, if we're saying Cam Newton, Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, Cam Newton is the one that is like the A student that you say play the game the way he does, as far as being conservative,
right,
being patient. But Carson Wentz, you can see when you can't play in that style, and have failure after failure, and it starts to undermine you. So absolutely, we're watching this. But I'll say this, Cease. If we saw Jalen Hurts out there, then we'd say, let's go back to Wentz. Get back to Wentz. I mean, I like Jalen Hurts as an NFL backup quarterback to stop the bleeding for a team. Maybe, if Jalen Hurts was the quarterback for the Steelers last year, they'd probably go to the playoffs. But he's got a slow processor, and it's just, with this offensive line, unless Doug Peterson and company decide to do some sort of college-type offense where Hurts is a threat as a runner on most plays, that's not going to be pretty either. It's just not pretty for the Eagles. They did sign Hakeem Butler. Here's your little bright spot. They signed Hakeem Butler. I think they even announced him as a tight end. So I don't know if he'll be active for this game. That's fun. That's about the most fun that you can have, because that San Francisco defense lost some players, still smothered the Giants.
Saw Jalen Hurts at the Senior Bowl, and he was like the fourth best quarterback. Steven Montez was better than him.
Yeah. And maybe more athletic?
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the other side of things. San Francisco, no Jimmy Garoppolo. We don't know yet about Mostert. I'm looking that up. Don't think we'll see him. So that means Jet McKinnon is also a little bit banged up. Mostert was not practicing on Wednesday. Again, Mostert did not practice on Wednesday. We're recording this Thursday morning for whenever you're listening to it. Okay, that makes it more simple then. Jeff Wilson, Jet McKinnon, done and done. Now, Brandon Ayuk, how about a dash of him? No Debo yet?
Mm-mm.
Next week, Debo?
Yeah.
Next week, Debo. Okay, so again, it's the 49ers. It's not that complicated. Return of George Kittle. It's not that complicated. And it's not that complicated when you're playing the Eagles. Oh, my God.
It's not. It's not that complicated when you're playing any of these NFC least teams. We'll see more Nick Mullins. Mullins is a two-quarterback superflex consideration. Eagles defense hasn't been good this year. McKinnon and Wilson are both running back 2 plays. I don't think we're going to see Mostert. He didn't practice on Wednesday. I just don't see any reason that you're rushing Mostert back. I think with these knee injuries that don't get surgically repaired, a big piece of it is just that confidence in the knee, trusting the knee, and the more time you can rest it, the better it's going to feel that first time back. George Kittle will be back, and that's fun. And that's like the reason to watch this game, you know? I mean, there's other things going on here. George Kittle is one of those guys. You know, Cease, we don't have Marshawn Lynch. We have the ghost of Rob Gronkowski. It's those guys that play the game with that joy, like the true playfulness. That's George Kittle, man. You got to love this. And maybe it's a Brandon Ayuk day. I think that Samuel, I would expect to be back next week, but for this week, I think that we saw Ayuk have some success in a game against the Giants defense. I think that Ayuk is going to be used on those end arounds. He's going to be used on some plays where you get the ball in his hands and let him do something after the catch. We'll see Kendrick Bourne play a little more here, but I think the other thing to watch here, see if you weren't watching Nick Mullins, I think he did play in like a Thursday night game a few years back when he was the starter. If you didn't get a chance to see him, people should see that he's one of the better backup quarterbacks, and I'd feel more comfortable with Mullins than Jalen Hurts, as my backup quarterback, and as somebody who I think can develop into a starter. Mullins is very interesting, especially sees with the proliferation of Kyle Shanahan concepts, right? Like, how many times do we hear, like, oh, I want to do this like Shanahan, whatever it is, pre-snap motions, the way he handles his backfield, and so on. Nick Mullins is very versed in the Kyle Shanahan offense.
There are those, maybe some on the staff, that think Nick Mullins could have gotten him the Super Bowl last year.
Maybe.
So again, it's
made
confidence.
That throw to Emmanuel Sanders.
It's confidence, and it's also the confidence that the staff has in that guy. So there you go. And that now we got a bunch of Debo references coming in. He's gonna cry in the car. Yeah. That's one of my favorite ones. So let's get our final game in before we get to What the Heck Flex. It is Monday night. It is Atlanta and it is Green Bay. And the Atlanta side of things, like, I'm watching this just to see what my Brian Hill shares do, right? Like, okay, I might throw him as to What the Heck Flex, whatever is whatever. Going up against Green Bay, we know Atlanta's gonna have to put the foot on the gas. We know Green Bay themselves are going to put the foot on the gas. We've got a lot of interesting things with the Packers. The Falcons are less interesting, Bloom, because injuries, Julio Jones banged up, all these sorts of things. Gurley doesn't look the same. So I'm mainly watching from a backup perspective. Obviously, you got Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, or considering those guys. But I'm not really watching the Falcons with excitement. I'm watching it more with, like, what's it going to look like when Brian Hill takes over in week 8?
Right. Atlanta. And one of the only things that would have been a silver lining about the Steelers-Titans getting moved to Monday night or Monday afternoon was it would give us a good football game to watch. Hopefully Atlanta can make this a good football game. But when in your mind's eye, when you picture Matt Ryan outdoors against a team with a good pass rush, that never ends well for the Falcons.
No.
So maybe instead of losing at the end of the game, they lose in the first half this time, like they did against Seattle to open the season. Waiting to see about Russell Gage. And again, you're going to be looking up to Saturday injury reports. Russell Gage and his concussion. Julio Jones and the hamstring. We have Devontae Adams and his hamstring on the other side. So it looks like, it's funny, Cease, the first three wide receivers off the board in most every fantasy draft. Michael Thomas, he is going to be back this week. And we'll wait and see on Julio Jones and Devontae Adams. And then that changes the complexion of this offense. So, for instance, if there's no Gage and there's no Jones, there's no way I'm playing Matt Ryan. If Gage and Jones are going to be out there, a little more interesting in a garbage time game script. It also affects whether you're looking at Hayden Hurst, because he was set up for big enough opportunity without Julio, and then Gage goes out, and Hurst only catches one ball. So we can watch this a little bit closer, but I understand if you keep Hurst on the bench. Gurley is still a better play than Hill, but as you said, Cease, we're watching for that scale to tip, whether it's because of injury or performance. Hill he's in the what the heck COVID running back pickup this week, along with Devontae Freeman. But I do think this feels like a struggle game for Matt Ryan. And who's the struggle target? Is it Russell Gage? Is it Olamide Zaccheaus or Brandon Powell? Because it wasn't Hayden Hurst last week.
Oh, crap, COVID. So that's we have What the Heck Flex, and we have Oh Crap COVID. So sorry, Joe, for saying crap. Anyway, 40-year-old man. Let's talk about the Green Bay side. And because it was Monday night, Bloom, they didn't have to release the practice report, of course. So we're kind of just waiting. Is Devontae Adams going to play or not? So let's see how that works out. Is Alan Lazard taking over as the number 2? It'll be interesting to monitor that. Him and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. There's like a great debate going on right now in the fantasy community between those two. And then how's that affect, of course, Aaron Rodgers just going nuts. A lot of credit to Matt LaFleur for just letting Rodgers do his thing, right? Because we've seen coaches before. You're going to run my system. You're going to run my system. It happened with Gary Kubiak and Peyton Manning. And Peyton finally was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Let me do what I do, and they won a Super Bowl. Well, the Packers are doing what they do because of Aaron Rodgers, because of Aaron Jones. And then the targets, we'll have to see if Adams is out there and how that changes the pecking order, if he is or is not.
Either way, you like Lazard, right? And another thing, narrative matters in fantasy football, right? Lazard was a hand-picked guy. Aaron Rodgers lobbied for him to get on the field last year. And now you see, I think it's just trust. I think as a quarterback, we cannot understand the value of knowing that 100 times out of 100, that wide receiver is going to do what you expect him to do, what you've gone over, the chemistry. That's what that represents. I think he has it with Lazard. I think that while Valdes-Scantling is obviously a more physically impressive wide receiver, there's a history. Like, cue the montage cease of the Valdes-Scantling drops, Right. Doesn't have that with Lazard. Then on that note, we're going to watch Robert Tanyan. And again, in the background here is if Devontae Adams plays, all of these guys become less attractive plays. But if Devontae Adams doesn't play against Atlanta's secondary, Lazard almost becomes a must start. Valdes-Scantling is a what the heck flex. Robert Tanyan, former wide receiver, Indiana State, I believe. It gave us Larry Bird. He is another Rodgers favorite, another guy that Rodgers has a special connection with, and he has some connection now with Jay Sternberger, and then we get to watch Aaron Jones, see what sombrero he's got going on. But with those tight ends, I want to mention again too, was it the tight ends were involved because Adams was out, or is there something brewing here up in Wisconsin at the tight end position in this offense? But this is an easy matchup for Green Bay. They should be able to hold serve here. And right now they are looking like the likely Super Bowl representative from the NFC. But as we know, it's only week 4. There's a lot of ball game left.
Lots of ball game left, that's for sure, in your fantasy football leagues. And that's why it comes to time where you just throw up your hands and go, what the heck flex? Or this week, oh crap, COVID. So we have some players to go over. You're looking over your lineup. You just need that punch. And some week 4, what the heck flexes for me include one. I just talked about it. Jamal Williams. Give me some of that Monday night punch. Oh, what the heck? Oh my God, crap, COVID. So James White, Jamal Williams, these players to me are that level of what the heck flex type of play. I'll be throwing Zach Moss in there as a what the heck flex as well. If we look at the wide receiver position, what the heck flex, Julio Jones is more of a what the, unless you get points for being a decoy, Julio Jones, what the heck flex, Greg Ward, what the heck flex. There is MVS, what the heck flex, that type of play. I think Randall Cobb performed better than a what the heck flex, but I've got him in there as one of those. Emmanuel Sanders tonight, Thursday night, I'll throw in KJ Hamler as a what the heck flex there. McCole Hardman, I think, performs more than a what the heck flex, but he's on my list. And we'll see how that continues. Bloom, when you look over your week 4 lineups and you just need some punch or you need, oh crap, COVID.
Right.
Who are your guys?
Ronald Jones deserves another chance, assuming Leonard Fournette's going to be out. Gus Edwards, kind of an oh crap COVID play, but also I think he's a fine what the heck flex if we think Baltimore is going to be playing out the string in the fourth quarter with a big lead here. Latavius Murray against Detroit's run defense. He's been getting some touches. J.D. McKissick kind of straddles the line here, but again, if Washington's coming from behind late, down by 2-3 scores, that could be J.D. McKissick garbage time. You mentioned Jamal Williams. And look, I'll add this note. So if it's oh crap COVID, I have to pick up somebody, whoever's out on the waiver wire, to play. I like it to be Gus Edwards. I like it to be Jamal Williams. I like it to be also Jordan Wilkins, although Indianapolis isn't in a game where you think there's garbage time, because they also give you injury upside, right? I mean, as it is, we're just saying, I just want to get 10 touches in my lineup.
Double
somehow.
dipping.
Right. Why not add someone that if there's an injury, if Mark Ingram goes down, if Aaron Jones goes down, if you see Jonathan Taylor limp off the field, now you're very excited to have these players. Chase Edmonds, what the heck, flex this week at running back. And then just to continue, because it is, I think the pool is so much deeper at wide receiver. Your oh crap COVID running backs, we mentioned some of these guys already. Brian Hill, Devontae Freeman, McKissick's another good one. I think Gore and Balaj even. These are guys that you're scouring the waiver wire for. Any New England running back, these are the guys that you're looking at. Also, I'll give a little segment here for the oh crap COVID tight ends because of Johnny Smith and Eric Ebron could have been one of them. Greg Olson might be out there on your waiver wire. We talked about Robert Tanyan with Chris Godwin out, O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski,
Jimmy
if they're
Graham.
out there. Jimmy Graham, of course. If he was picked up, Jordan Akins could be an interesting one. Chris Herndon, give you a reason to watch Thursday night. Adding segments here. And then we get to the wide receivers, Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis. Preston Williams, I think this could be his breakout game for this year. Hunter Renfrow, we talked about. T. Higgins and Auden Tate. Remember, Tate got 3 end zone targets. Jacksonville. McCole Hardman, we mentioned. Randall Cobb. I'll toss Justin Watson out there. It looks like Scott Miller's banged up. Watson's back at practice. I got a nice play on a flea flicker a couple weeks ago. So he's another one that could be big hit for Tom Brady against the Chargers this week. And let's just keep our fingers crossed. No more hits on the COVID tests. And this can be something we put behind us like baseball was able to do early on. I hope that the players are paying attention. I hope everyone out there is paying attention too because fall's coming. So, certainly need to be on guard. We just want to have as many people listening and hanging out with us as possible, Cease. And,
Right.
That's what we're all about here. Good things.
Yeah. Let's not screw it up. Anyway, it's kind of like your fantasy season, right?
Yeah.
Just don't screw it up. So let's get it done. And of course, tonight, Bloom, you will be carrying the torch as I will be.
Oh yeah,
tortured watching the Broncos game.
That was a beautiful little twist of phrase. We're all going against the dominatrix tonight. Whips and chains are more exciting than that game, and there's a good kind of torture for some people.
I have a feeling we will not get 50 Shades of Shermer tonight.
No.
So no fuzzy handcuffs for the Broncos offense. That is a wrap for this program. Do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you out there for watching, for listening, for helping us grow the YouTube channel. And then, of course, our listening audience on Apple Music and Spotify has been, millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of downloads. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Love your support. It drives us, and we love you. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Everyone out there, stay tuned and stay frosty.